Good morning. My name is Kathy Estomborski, and it's a joy to be here with all of you this morning at the North Chapel. Today is Sunday, January 31st, and it's wonderful to be together. Before we get started this morning, I want to be sure to announce that the annual meeting of the North Universalist Chapel Society will be held this afternoon at 1 o'clock. The purpose of the meeting is to elect new trustees and a new member to the nominating committee per the organization's bylaws. The meeting is also a time to transact other business of the society. Of course, this will be conducted by Zoom, and you should have received a link to the meeting. I hope to see you all there. After the crazy year that 2020 turned out to be, I have to say that January of 2021 has been a tad challenging as well. Not quite as quiet and peaceful as I had hoped it might be. But as this month is just about behind us, I do feel that things in our world are looking up. And it's so much brighter. Longer days with more sun illuminate the beautiful snow around us. And what an appropriate theme we've had this month to guide our services and reflections, committing ourselves to the common good. I have really welcomed listening to the reflections this month on this theme and look forward to hearing from Rolly Hazard this morning, who will share his thoughts on what committing ourselves to the common good means to him. I'm still reveling in the beauty of the poem that Amanda Gorman wrote and performed for our new president's inauguration. I was reluctant to share her words this morning, thinking by this Sunday they might have been shared pretty generously already. But in looking at her work, I came across a poem written by Maya Angelou that was shared at the inauguration of Bill Clinton in 1993. I thought her words were also fitting and beautiful to open up our service today. So I read in part from On the Pulse of Morning. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, and if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon the day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men. Take it into the palms of your hands. Mold it into the shape of your most private need. Sculpt it into the image of your most public self. Lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Here, on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes, your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning. And now, let's join our remote voices in singing Blue Boat Home.
Hello, my name is Laura Foley, and I'm here on a hilltop, snowy hilltop on the cusp of a new month. And I wanted to read you a poem about prayer and what is it that we seek in prayer or in meditation or in nature. And the poem is called The Rising. The Rising. I wait on the mountaintop, hearing the symphony of wind in leafless trees, feeling the breeze lift my hair, wind rising from unseen streams, canyons of air, the sound like ocean surf, rising, falling, rising again. A few white clouds sail the sky's azure sea. 2 eagles rise over me, wheel around each other, carve infinity symbols in the blue. I wait as the gentle, unburning sun goldens the weary grass, the scattered fallen leaves. I wait, but hear only the empty wind growing louder, echoing the emptiness inside me, rising to meet the nothing I was seeking.
Good morning. You may know that the North Chapel's January theme is all about committing yourself to the common good. So I thought long and hard about the common good when I set about making my New Year's resolutions. First, I made a firm commitment to driving on the right side of the road, except when making a left-hand turn. This resolution was easy peasy. Driving on the right side of the road is likely to be good for me and for anyone driving toward me as well. Everybody wins. Of course, once COVID is over, and I should decide to visit anywhere in the former British Empire outside of Canada, I'll have to change my commitment to the left side of the road. Secondly, I resolved to wear a mask for the foreseeable future. This would really just be a continuation of a habit I initially took up to protect myself from COVID-infected other people, and maintained when later I learned a mask was even more effective in keeping an infected but asymptomatic me from killing other people. Both rationales seemed to meet the standard of serving myself and the common good at the same time. My third resolution involves getting vaccinated against the virus as soon as my number comes up. 2 shots in the arm makes sense again for me and for my fellow man. But wait, why doesn't everybody think and behave like me on the question of masks and vaccines? Don't they care about themselves and their neighbors? Are they actually poo-pooing the common good? Should I be trying to convince these naysayers to mend their ways? So I got to thinking about the common good and why it's not always as clear-cut as driving on the correct side of the road. I started thinking about baseball. Early on, baseball was a total joy for me when my boyhood friends and I played a game called Scrub. In Scrub, 3 players are batters and everybody else is in the field. If one of the batters gets out, he goes out into the outfield. The catcher replaces the batter, the pitcher becomes the catcher, the first baseman becomes the pitcher, and so on until each player has rotated into one position closer to batting. This game of Scrub could be played forever, or at least until it got dark or it was time for supper. Sometimes it got too hot and we all jumped on our bikes and went swimming. Although there was an implied goal of staying at bat as long as possible, there was no way of keeping score, so nobody ever won or lost a game of Scrub. Nobody cheated. Any dispute was quickly settled by consensus so we could get back to playing the game. We were just purely playing baseball, 100% for the fun of it. Later on, I participated in a more consequential form of baseball. For 3 summers, I played second base and pitched for the Norwich, Vermont Little League. We wore light gray uniforms with maroon socks, and before each game, I cleaned my spikes and ironed my tunic with Norwich across the front and my number on the back. We played against other teams from towns like Windsor and Woodstock and Lebanon and Hartford. The team we most wanted to beat was Hanover. It was us against another town team 2 or 3 nights a week, and the sidelines were packed with fans, mostly parents. Our home field was right on the town green, so our fans lined up on the third base side and the opponents along the first base side. There was a lot of chatter intended to rattle or support either the pitcher or the batter, depending on whose side you were on. Chants echoed across the field like, "Hey, batter, batter, hey, hey, batter, batter," or "Fire hard in there, fire hard." There was an umpire and a scorekeeper. If the score was tied after 7 innings, we played extra innings until one team won. Somebody always won, and the other team always lost. In my first year, more than a few times, I cried when we lost. Baseball became an intense, sometimes desperate effort to win. Although some players were stars, everybody loved the team, and we all shared this powerful commitment and allegiance to each other. If my teammate was at bat, I almost prayed he would get a hit. If I was pitching, I was totally committed to striking out the batter, and I could hear and feel the support of my teammates behind me in the field. Through the emotional ups and downs of winning and losing, for me, though, the best thing about Little League was belonging to the team, knowing that all of us were rooting for each other. I had learned for the first time the happiness of belonging to a tribe. So, what does all this baseball and tribalism have to do with the common good? In its finest form, the common good would serve everyone by reducing or eliminating suffering and by promoting happiness. Hard to find fault with those goals. So what's the problem? The trouble with the so-called common good comes when people, whether as individuals or members of tribes, disagree about what is best for them. There is no apparent commonality. We are surrounded by these conflicts of interest and intents based on our personal and tribal perspectives, our data, and our beliefs. What tribe or tribes do you belong to? As a Unitarian, how do you differ from Catholics or Mormons or Pentecostals or Jehovah's Witnesses? What difference does it make? How about your political party? As a Democrat, how do you feel about driving past a barn still displaying a Trump and Pence banner? As a Republican, how do you feel about 4 years of Joe Biden? And what about your national affiliation? When they play "Oh Say Can You See," do you place your hand over your heart or hold a fist in the air? Have you ever saluted the flag of the United Nations? As a Vermonter, how do you feel when the grocery store parking lot is full of New York and Massachusetts license plates? Where do you stand on gun control? Are you a hunter? Once I took a class on the war in Vietnam with my mother. She was 90. Toward the end of the final class, the buzz in the room grew chaotic with efforts to identify how and why wars between nations keep happening year after year, decade after decade, and century after century. As these efforts to identify a root cause of all this war-making fell silent, my mother said, "Fear is the cause of war." The stunned silence was broken when one of the students asked, "What are we afraid of?" And my mother said, "The other. The other." In his recent New York Times opinion piece on the radicalism of Jesus, Peter Weiner spoke of the tendency to place loyalty to tribe over compassion and human connection. He allowed that when differences are perceived as threatening and we react without compassion, we become isolated, rigid in our thinking, harsh and unforgiving. More and more often in the last months of 2020, I found myself yelling at the television. Outrage over the behaviors and attitudes displayed by all the networks, whether liberal or conservative, left me sickened in spirit and in need of healing. So here's my final New Year's resolution. Kindness. I resolve to approach every apparent conflict in my life with kindness in my heart. When I told this to my brother last week over the phone, he said he had recently read about the derivations of kindness and kindred. He said that the foundation of kindness is the recognition of oneself in the heart of the other. I'm going to give it my best shot. Happy Sunday, everybody.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the warm sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. Watch them grow, they'll learn so much more than we'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.